All right, fellas, welcome to Wisdom Wednesday. We're going to talk
Yeah.
about toxic masculinity and see if your masculinity is intact. We have been, we are, and we will probably be under attack as far as in regards to our masculinity. I think the world is constantly trying to make us soft. Is constantly trying to get us to be to express and show our softer femininity, feminine side. Um, and it's been hit very hard in social media recently. What is toxic masculinity? Toxic masculinity refers to certain cultural norms and behaviors associated with masculinity that can be harmful to individuals and society. So masculinity, it says, can be harmful to individuals and society. It often emphasizes traits like dominance, aggression, emotional suppression, and the idea that men must always be strong and stoic. Have you all ever, do you know what the word stoic stands for? Mean? I'll give it to you later. These expectations can lead to negative outcomes such as violence, mental health issues, and the suppression of emotional expression in men, as well as discrimination or harm towards others. It's important to note that the term doesn't suggest masculinity itself is inherently toxic, but rather highlights specific societal norms and stereotypes that can be damaging. Where is that registers with you?
Register with me, brother.
What in what way?
Well, because I've been seeing, I've been paying attention. Like the term toxic masculinity, I don't know when it was coined, but I want to say ever since 2010, it's been a full fledged war on masculinity because with things like women doing slut walks and all of that stuff there, because they say men slut shame and whatnot. Ever since I've noticed that and started paying attention to that every year progressively, I've been seeing that masculinity, things that make us men, has been under attack. So that's how it's registered with me.
What is flood walk?
Well, there are women that are claiming, and I'm gonna say it, feminists that are or women that declare themselves as feminists are now they want to be in control of their sexuality, right? So one way to be in control of their sexuality, they get to parade around half naked
Okay,
in the area, and
okay.
they taking that back from us per se, you know.
I don't no, I don't know, but okay, I understand it. I just don't know when we took it. Okay,
Right.
but when we talk about toxic masculinity, what's your take on it? Anybody else got anything to say about it?
I don't believe it's a thing called toxic masculinity. Like you said, like my father said, is masculine men are under attack, but yet and still they still want to call on the masculine man when they're in need of help. So that's just their way of attacking us and try to make everyone beta males and try to bow down to this new false ideology that they got going on. So I say as if what he was saying, my dad was referring to. But I don't.
Okay, now, Brother Moore, Tariq, you threw out another phrase that we probably should address while we're talking. Beta male. We've all heard of alpha male. What's the beta male?
Beta male is basically a man that follows suit, a man that's not best in his masculinity. He's prone to bow down to women, to be exact. Someone who I say avoids conflict, if that makes sense. Like he goes with the flow. He's not the guy that's going to stand up for himself. He's always just going to go with society's rules, as far as in being a man, what a man should be, and actually,
Okay, okay. Yeah, I've said it before. My pastor say men just go along to get along.
Yes, sir.
So they don't want to argue or discuss, stand their ground. Brother
Yes,
Thomas,
sir.
I know you have something to say about that. You married.
No, I'm just listening. I agree with the brothers. That's good. I think it's a perspective thing. And like you said, specifically, I think a lot of people on here is like a darker melanated black, but society has painted this picture. If you have a certain complexion, a certain melanation, and you speak up or stand for yourself, then you're the bad guy. You're angry. You want to kill everybody or hurt everybody. And that's not the case.
Now, you mentioned perception. Do
Right.
you live your life according to perception or perspective?
Perspective.
Okay.
But I'm aware and mindful of other people's perception in this scenario that we're speaking on now.
Now, do you cater or cower down to their perception?
No.
Okay. Just checking. Because if you cater to their perception, you're going to be going whichever way the wind blows.
Yes, sir.
It's
Gotta be the bad guy
interesting because
sometimes.
that word toxic means being poisonous, extremely harsh, harmful, or malicious. So that's what toxic means. Would you buy that? That
I
there
can
is
buy it.
such a thing, and I'm sure there is in some men, toxic masculinity.
I I buy toxic not necessarily to I don't subscribe to toxic masculinity because like I said, I believe it was a coin that was phrased to try to control and manipulate us. But if there's anything as such as toxic masculinity, is those men that act on their emotions and cause harm and do things like that, trying like doing subscribing to the things that society say that they subscribe to. Because if you're not in control of your emotions and you harm somebody for stepping on your shoes, that's clearly that's emotional. You
Yeah.
act that you acting on your emotion. So when you see, especially in our community, when you talk about the melanated men and things like that, when you see brothers who subscribe to that kind of emotion, that that's toxic masculinity because for one, it was taught by toxic femininity. You know what I mean? Or
Yes,
toxic.
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah. To add on to that, with the melanation and things like that and how people view things, Proverbs 16:32 says, he that is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he that ruleth his spirit then taketh a city. Right. And so when I was talking about the perspective and the perception of things, it's about your level of maturity as well. Like brother just said, there's certain young men out there that let their emotions get the best of them. And so when you let your emotions get the best of you and you're acting out or retaliating or doing certain things, reacting instead of responding, right? Which is what stoicism is about. We respond versus react. You get out of character, you can be quote unquote toxic and masculine, if you would, if they look at it like that. But a man that's being steadfast and grounded in his principles and his precepts and how he operates and doing things intentionally, if you're viewed as being toxic for standing your ground and standing 10 toes down on what you're speaking on and what your beliefs are, then you just let that go in the wind off of somebody just coining you as that. I think
Right.
me and Brother Moore talked on that last time where they say, you angry or you being, you the bad guy or whatever the case may be. When you're doing it from a solid place, a place of reason, rationalization, then who cares what they perceive? But if you're really out here putting your hands on women and acting out and what I'm saying, slashing tires or doing stuff that them ladies
Women
be
do
doing, right, then that's when we say that's when I would give the phrase toxic masculinity because now you're just being a big baby, a big boy.
a
You know what
big
I'm
girl,
saying?
being a big girl.
Absolutely, yeah. If we on the live, we can get on the live. We get the Bible open, Grant.
Yeah, I had to, I had to pull up my blue letter Bible on my phone.
All right, all right.
And I did
That's
that
good stuff.
because Tony J texted in the chat Matthew 12:35, which says, "A good man out of the good treasure of the heart brings forth good things, and an evil man out of the evil treasures brings forth evil things." And it's interesting because they say that toxic masculinity, it can lead to negative outcomes, violence, mental health, suppression, and emotional expression, suppression of emotional expression in men, as well as being harmful to others. Now, let's see this other word in there in the mix here in the conversation, and then we're going to talk about societal norms and so forth. It says that it emphasizes traits like dominance, aggression, emotional suppression, and the idea that men must always be strong and stoic. So to get a clear understanding here, stoicism, it means it's a philosophy that teaches the development of self-control, resilience, and virtue as a way of achieving a tranquil and fulfilled life. The core principles of Stoicism is acceptance of what cannot be changed, recognizing the difference between what you can control and what you can't. The virtue as the highest good, valuing wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, living in accordance with nature, understanding and aligning oneself with the natural order and reason. Now, those are the three uh, attitudes, mindsets, characteristics that Stoicism promotes. Accepting what you cannot change, recognizing the difference between what you can control and not, virtue as a highest good, valuing wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, living in accordance with nature, understanding and aligning oneself with the natural order and reason. Stoicism encourages mindfulness and emotional resilience, helping individuals maintain calm and rationality in the face of life challenges. Okay? And going back to the summary about toxic masculinity, it says it often emphasizes traits like dominance, aggression, emotional suppression, and the idea that men must always be strong and stoic. So when you have that phrase, that sentence, with toxic masculinity, then you look at what stoicism is. Where's the confusion? Are they in line with one another, or is it a confusion?
There is confusion because when you align stoicism with those other traits, that's where the confusion lies because stoicism is so far from those other traits. You know what I mean? Like has nothing to do with those other traits about aggression and dominance and things like that because stoicism emphasizes temperance, like you said, and
Yeah,
what
it's
have you.
contrary.
Right? It's contrary.
It's like oil and water in the mix. It's like, hey, you want
So,
this water? And they put oil in it, and it just
so
don't
you're
mix.
exactly
saying that when somebody says use the term toxic masculinity, they're talking out their butt.
pretty much. Cause
Right.
I go as far
And
as
where they
telling
get that definition from?
this. I go as far as telling people that there's no such thing as toxic masculinity because of the attack of masculinity. Because the things that inherently make men masculine, you know what I'm saying? Exploration. Like little boys are explorers, are curious and things like that by nature. These things that they try to, like they do studies where they try to change the outcomes of that. You get boys building blocks. You see little boys naturally competing and things like that, want to wrestle and whatnot. These are things that they're trying to drive out of little boys, and then they try to basically make little boys into girls. So
Okay.
they can, you know what I'm saying? You see this all the time when they try to get, when they throw those terms at us, they want to throw those terms at us as grown men to try to make us more like women.
Right. I think the overall term that we all heard is emasculation. And
Exactly.
so society has its tactics of doing so. But that's when we know who we are, then we disregard, you know, being put in a group. That's what society does a lot is, oh, you black, you black, you black, you black, you black, all y'all the same. Or you a
Right.
guy, you a 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 man, you a man, you a man, all y'all the same, and they just put everybody in this bucket. But then when people put in the bucket is that individual have an awareness of what they're defining that bucket as, right? Like when Grant just used the word toxic masculinity, and then he read the definition from wherever he read it from. Somebody somewhere will agree to that, but then if we read what the definition is, then there's a disagreement,
AI.
right?
Got that off of AI.
Right. And so, hey, all of it's tied. You know, the algorithm is tied in the system actually to go against black men, believe it or not.
Yes,
I don't
sir.
want to make it about a race thing, but when you look at Google certain things will and will not show up. Right. If you try to find somebody who's successful in business that's a black male on Google or ChatGPT, it'll be certain celebrities that are in not the best of lights. But other
Right.
brothers who are well put, who's locked in with God, who operate in the best capacity possible, Google somehow does not show that. And
Listen,
so that
Well,
algorithm is in position to put everybody or put, certain men in a certain light.
you
okay.
And
you
then that's when you have the culture and people going against you because
look.
they go off of what they Google and off of what they see.
Right. See, the narrative is that black men contribute nothing to society, right? But we all know that that's not true because
That's narrative.
we're surrounded by men right here on this cast that are contributing to society. You know what I'm saying? Men within the fraternity or men in black Greek letter fraternities or whatever. You know what I mean? Now, as far as education, yeah, black women and other people are surpassing us as far as a formal education, but we're taught we have to go to work. So when you speak of the algorithm and things like that, when you go to black people demographics, like 50% out of the 12% of the population, which is us, and 50% of the minority business is actually 53%. 53% of minority businesses in the black community are by black men. So yes, the black women are dominating in education and things like that, but that's when we have to tell our own story because they say the victors, people who control the narrative, tell the story, his story. You know what I'm saying? Even Brother Malcolm used to say, like, it's in the dictionary. Like everything against us. I mean, the word play and things like that. So we have to be in control of our own images and whatnot.
True when
Okay.
you say that. Go ahead, Greg.
What were you gonna say?
No, I was gonna say even when he says that, it's about how close to the source are you getting. Black women, black people in society, they say that the stats they say women are the ones getting all these degrees. I don't see that. I heard it. I hear people saying this, but
Right.
I don't see
Well,
it.
you look at the college, look at the university population and demographics. Some of the HBCUs, for example, women outnumber the men 9, 10, 15 to 1.
Right.
Right. And so the
Okay.
ratio when you say that is automatically offset. If it's 10-1 and 50% graduate, well, let's say it's 8-2. If 50% graduate, 50% of each gender group means 4 women graduated and 1 man graduated, right? If we're going off of numbers. And so when the classes go through, it's not saying like, oh yeah, men just ain't getting degrees or whatever the case may be. It's just where they basing their information from statistically. And then
Well,
how
but
much
now
weight does it actually hold?
let me chime in here because
Yeah,
a, a great deal of black men choose not to go to college.
Right.
Okay. They're out there trying to get along, trying to to get their groove on and so forth, and it takes money. And so they look to work to make money so they can have fun,
get the
do
women in
whatever they
college.
want to do. So what?
I said so they can support their wife going to college.
Well, even if they're not married, they're trying to catch
Yeah,
the one that's going to college. So they
absolutely.
need to have their monies intact, and they rather get it now than go for the long haul. Okay, so it's
Is that a bad thing?
I don't know. I don't know.
I'm
I told you that when I got out of the army, I had VA benefits and all that kind of good stuff, and I just stood flat footed and said, "Nope, I'm not going back to college."
right.
And then I set out to educate myself on what I needed to know and people skills, technology, et cetera, whatever I needed to know in order to get what I wanted. Okay,
Right.
and I haven't done half bad.
Right.
See,
And that's
but
what goes back to what Brother Moore was talking about with the innate, you know, explorer mentality of men, if you
right,
would.
like
Society wants to put you on a box and put you in an institution, and you understand that innately I could get more experience and wisdom being out on the field hands on, right? So that's where apprenticeship used to come in back in the day because
exactly.
you can go and get a craft and get a trade skill, and we can get straight to it. And so even the fact that we're putting emphasis on the light of who has a degree and who doesn't, who's gonna get the job done.
Well, that's true. However, out here in the world, okay, she has a PhD and you have a an associate's degree or a trade. Then are you of equal yoke or what have you?
You can
In
be
other words, she got the PhD or a master's PhD. You have a high school or an associate or a trade. Are you
Yeah,
compatible? Are you on the same level? How do you combat that? Because again, we don't want you to be uh, guilty of toxic masculinity and get violent and ignorant.
you got to
right.
keep growing.
So
And that's what. Go ahead, boy.
I have experience with. I don't have my degree. I did a trade. I went to college for a year. I stopped. You know what I'm saying? And what made me end up taking the trade was my circumstances. Whereas I was a teenage father. You know what I mean? So the trade did well for me by I provided for my son by doing trade work. Now I did try to do a year of college and I didn't finish and things like that because I'm like I got to get to the money. But in my later years, got an insurance license and didn't do too bad. And I've dated and talked to women with PhDs and they were bright women and things like that, good women in a sense. Yet I didn't feel out of place at all because the way that they responded to who I was, like if I would have never told them that I didn't have a degree, they would never have thought that I didn't have a degree. You know what I mean? Because most of the women that I've dated have been women, professional women, child psychologists, things like that. Matter of fact, a couple of women when they were writing their thesis, I had books on the topics that they were studying because I'm an
Okay.
avid. Like I was dating this one sister who graduated from Fisk University. Then she was doing her her doctorate at FAMU. And for 3 months she just kept saying she was looking for this book. She couldn't find this book anywhere. And I guess it was worrying her. And I asked her what was the name of the book. She told me what the name of the book. I had a copy of the book and gave it to her. You know what I mean? So she can go ahead and complete her thesis. Now, I had a sister who had no degree, went to the military. The sister asked me while I was doing trade work. The sister was like, "Hey, man, you don't think you educated?" Because we had these kind of conversations. She said, "You might not have a degree, but much as you read, man, you read like a scholar, like a PhD student, or something like that. Because the topics you're well spoken and everything, So she was like, "You have a degree," and then Napoleon Hill put it in his book, Think and Grow Rich, that education comes from the root word educo, which is to draw out or to bring out. So if you are educated, if you can get any and everything you want in life without harming other people,
Okay.
you know.
Gotta
Okay.
let us learn and
And
build.
Tony J in the chat put down that the attack on man has been going on since Adam because Satan do not want to see the family stay together, and the man is the well, it's supposed to be the head, and more so with men of color. Uh, Decades ago, the attack was on the black family, and that is why you have the separation today.
right,
Um, I think Tariq mentioned it too. Women trying to, and the world is trying to get us to be softer, to be more feminine. Uh, they want you to show more compassion. This definition talks in terms of being harmful to others, violent, and so forth. And in the last sentence, it said, it's important to note that the term toxic masculinity doesn't suggest that masculinity itself is inherently toxic. Okay? But, but, and when you put your butt in it, what happens? You wipe out everything that was said prior to.
Yes, sir.
But rather highlight specific societal societal norms or stereotypes that can be damaging. What is society doing to us? What is it trying to do? What's the norm in society? How do you combat that?
Staying steadfast and to the truth, to you know what I'm saying, to God. Being, you know what I'm saying. God is the head, then the man, and staying true to that and standing on your square regardless of what society says. You got to be listen. My dad used to teach me things like this. Like if you ever felt less than a man because you didn't achieve something or you didn't win at something, you get knocked down. He was like, man, if you get knocked out, if you open your eyes, you can look up, you can get up. So when society is coming at us hit like full force like that, you have to be able to stand on that, and there are things that you have to be tools that you have to use in order to stand your ground in that case. Like, because we're under daily from the moment we open our eyes and dart out our doors, we're constantly under attack. Media, social media, news, the people we know, everybody is attacking us. The spiritual forces are against us. So we pray, definitely pray. And you don't pray for things to be easy, get easy. You pray, you know what I'm saying, for power equal to the task.
Yes,
You
Yes,
know
sir.
what I'm saying?
that's
You,
it.
you want to be better. You don't pray for things to get easy. You pray for the strength to endure the task, to carry the load.
And that's
Yeah,
stoicism.
I tell the members of my lodge, I said, if you think I'm a butthead, so be it. But am I the first butthead you ran into? I can guarantee I'm not going to be the last. So what you got to do is pray to be able to handle and deal with butthead.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You increase your stoicism. That's another definition or a term of it. Is a person, a man who can endure pain and hardship without showing their feelings or complaining. And so
Yes,
you
sir.
building your exterior for society, for the world, for the spiritual attacks from your interior, right? And then you connect and you implement wisdom as you go. The wisdom, go ahead,
You build it from where?
from the inside to the out.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so then you continuously move and maneuver and gain wisdom as you go. It's like a video game to a degree, if you would. Like you have what you have, and you just keep building it so you can combat whatever is going your way. That's when they say high levels, different devils, etc.
Yes,
Where you
sir.
was 10 years ago, you was dealing with something different. You wised up, you muscled up, you girdled up, you got through it. And now for you to get to a certain level, if you choose to, which you should desire that, because innately that's what God has in us to grow, you continuously pour in yourself. And so that's another thing. I think men of God innately know that what society is giving ain't the best. It don't have substance, if you would,
Yes,
to
sir.
be able to allow us to operate and combat through society with being the head of the household. I haven't been to one school yet, unless you guys can, confirm uh, otherwise from another source where they teach you how to be a better man,
Not at
right?
all.
Right. And so going to school, I can learn how to read a book, but if I'm already highly educated or my intellect is high, or I'm already a good left-minded person, left-minded man, then it's only so much you can teach me. And then when we understand the process, you teaching me how to follow instructions and follow other leaders, if you would, throughout society to be an employee. So when you got vision and you got sight on that, you gonna keep going down that path, or you gonna tap into groups like this, go to seminars, read more books, educate yourself, and then put your knowledge that you gain to the test so it can be exuberated as power.
Iron sharpens iron, brothers.
Samuel Young, what's on your mind? What you thinking?
Uh, I think that a lot of truth has been said. Um, are you asking what do I think about Stoicism, or what do I think about?
The whole conversation.
Uh,
You've been listening, and I know thoughts are running across your mind.
okay. I believe that yes, we are attacked on the daily. I actually have conversations uh, rather often about how we are being attacked. I had a conversation today with a coworker, and we were talking about just simple upbringing, and he was enlightened when I brought up the fact of the daily uh, compound, if you will, of being of a different ethnicity and different gender. You know, uh, how women have their daily builders, and it I got a lot on my mind.
Listen,
And
brother.
Well, that is the purpose of these meetings is to put something on our mind, and prayerfully, hopefully, we come up with a decision,
yeah,
and then we uh, critically think about what we've heard and how we're going to make this decision, and then we stand on it. Because the bottom line is, it says, uh, but rather highlight specific societal norms or stereotypes that can be damaging. So you got to figure out whether or not you want to be in line with the normal society or you want to stand alone. But you need to make a decision, because if not, you're going to wind up being what Tariq said, a beta male, which is flapping in the wind.
Yes, sir.
yeah, never beta male. You gave me an opportunity to regather my thoughts. What I was saying was, uh, the compound of being a black male daily. I don't think other gender or race understands it, uh, and it does get to be a bit. So yeah, that's just what I was thinking of.
Well, the other thing that you brought up was other races and ethnic groups.
They don't care
But
to understand.
let's stay right in the black community.
Right.
Uh, how? Oh wow! Oh, y'all can't find me, can't catch me, so I'm not scared. How did your mother raise you? Did she raise you to be a man, or did she try and get you to conform to societal norms? If you got,
She,
because how did they treat you? Were they trying to
she,
were they supporting and encouraging your manhood, or did they try and get you to cower down to societal norms and
They, they
stereotypes?
they try to get you to cower down in most cases, and that goes all the way back to slavery, where the woman had to protect the black male, the husband and the child. You know what I'm saying, from the master. So they tried to like make them like not be so outspoken and wild, because master would kill them in that society, and that translated like all the way up into our lifetime, where our women, like, be afraid of the police, do this, and that. different things. You know what I mean? So they don't, and I don't think it comes from a bad place. It comes from what they know. But again, that's where manhood comes in, where men are supposed to be there to teach other young men how to be men. You know,
Absolutely. Our purpose is to provide and protect. That's what we created to do. Provide and protect. When you go back to the very beginning with Adam, he was put in the garden to provide and protect what was given to him. He was given a woman to be his helpmate. He's supposed to provide and protect. And the thing is that that person that he gave us, the woman, is constantly trying to suppress our masculinity
100%
because it doesn't sound good, I guess.
from the beginning.
It's rough, gruff, and what have you.
Listen, brother, there's a comedian, right? He was telling a joke where he understood what happened. Some of you guys, if you're on social media, probably seen it, where he knew what happened in the garden, right? He said God created man and created woman, and Adam was talking to the woman and was like, Eve, we got everything that we need here. We got all the food, we got the land. Every time we dream, it can come true, and this and that. And Eve was like, but it's just not enough. So they had the brothers and the sister on the podcast. All the men laughed, and then the woman was like, I was just waiting for more. And the brothers was like, that's his point. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? So it's been like
Like
that from the beginning.
where I talk about it, you can't please them. They always go on more as far as maxing out that. That's
Right.
where we get back to the stoicism again, where you're building your inner man, your inner spirit man, yourself, because shit, the world go want everything from you, and this go keep taking it if you go keep giving it,
And they ain't
Right.
gonna give you
right?
nothing in return.
Right. And so it's learning these principles. I found a scripture where it said, seek wisdom, not just knowledge. So Proverbs 4:7, wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom. And with all thy getting, get understanding. And so when I hear that, it's like you got knowledge over here and you got wisdom over here. You can gain the knowledge, but wisdom teaches you how and when to apply it,
Yes, sir.
right? And so in the openness of the world, it doesn't just freely give out wisdom. You either obtain it from your experiences, from hitting your head, right? And God is talking to you and showing you that, or certain places that you can go, but it's just not out in the public like that.
Places and
Like,
people.
right. Places and people. And so when you go online, for example, it's funny where you'll see a music video clip or a song that's talking straight, just abundance of ignorance, and they got millions of views. But then it's another video of somebody, a man speaking some game, speaking some wisdom, right? Teaching people how to be, better in life, other men, how to get certain things in position so they can better their family, build their trust, and it has a fraction of the views in the society program people to be addicted to the stimuli of the nonsense,
Yes, sir.
right? And so we got to pull away from that. We got to separate to elevate. We got to pull away from that, get with God, and then God's going to allow us to be guided towards that wisdom, to seek it. Seeking you shall find, right? Knocking the door shall be open unto you. So when you pull it into those places where wisdom is, hey, you better appreciate it, man, because that's the real value.
Uh, Tony J said wisdom comes with time.
Yes.
I disagree because it's people that's old in their 70s, 60s, 80s, they'll have a certain level of understanding from their experiences or viewing, but that don't mean you got wisdom.
They old fools.
Right. And that's in the Bible too, right? So it's like, again, perspective and perception. You can say that, but just because you got grades, you ain't I don't believe that you're innately wise. Like I
Right.
don't I don't believe that everybody just gets wisdom when they hit 50. Because if that was the case, then the world would be a way better place, right? All grandparents would put out an abundance of wisdom to the child. They have more experience. They've been on the planet longer. But if it's two sharks and one shark has sat still his whole life, and another one went and traveled the four corners of the world, you can have lived the same amount of life, but one's gonna have an experienced wisdom to be able to say, "Hey, I know what's out there, and I didn't just hear that from my uncle or my brother."
And
Or I
then
don't
they have
know.
to be willing to share it.
That's another thing. That's another thing. And so that's part of your characteristics because everybody don't got that. Because they didn't seek wisdom in their lifetime.
Right.
They just let the time pass on by.
So what do you do? You might have covered it already, but what do you do when you have these revelations about your masculinity, your manhood? How do you handle that? Because we've already agreed that you're constantly under attack. And I guess Tariq, you're probably the youngest on the call. Uh, how do you stand, or what do you do? Because it's coming from all different directions.
Listen, I think, and that's because
He
of
said
years of.
Tariq.
Oh, okay. I don't know if he's still here.
Yeah, you're right there.
Me, I personally go through this on a daily basis. So what I have to do, I stand firm on what I believe in, and even if the odds are against me, I'm like the gentleman said, I'm gonna stand 10 toes behind what I believe in. Now I'm not abundant in ignorance or anything. I don't just, I'm not willing. I'm always willing to learn. So if I'm in the wrong with something and someone sees something from a different viewpoint and they can enlighten me or teach me, I'm always willing to listen. But if I'm in the right and I know in my mind that what I believe in is truly right, I'm going to stand firm on what I believe in. And you have to be willing to go up against the odds. Because like the gentleman said, like you said, sir, masculinity is under attack from all directions. And certain people, they try to play on the part far as saying labeling everyone as a toxic masculinity, like, oh, you shouldn't have said anything, you should have just, let it ride. No, I believe if you're a man, you have to stand your ground. You're a man, you have to stand for what you believe in. If you don't believe in nothing, you'll fall for anything.
Absolutely. What did David tell Solomon? David was on his deathbed. He told Solomon to be strong, be courageous, be a man. Brother Walker, what's on your mind?
Well, I feel like when it comes to toxic masculinity, by dissecting the definition, like what things can be toxic to one's masculinity, and I think that exists of social norms, like what young men are taught as they are coming up. Like a lot of times growing up, men or boys are expected not to cry or show signs of weakness, while sometimes females can have, especially back in the day, more basic expectations, such as, keeping a home and raising children. But as far as men, there's so many different stipulations on what defines you as a man and what defines you as feminine. So with so many different societal norms on what is accepted as being a man and what isn't, if a young man doesn't have a strong male figure in the household and they only have the mother trying to take the place of the father and the mother, a man can be lost in this world. So that's why so many single moms put their boys in sports or things that discipline them so that they can gain that strength that they're not able to provide. But now, as things are becoming more acceptable, some men are breaking out of those stereotypes and are just living their life as they see fit, even if that is as a feminine male. But also, when it comes to minorities, that same strength and aggression that you're taught can also be a downfall, because a lot of times African American men who, you know, portray themselves as being strong, or who may not be able to control their anger, then they're viewed as a threat. So I'm not making it about race, but sometimes a Caucasian male displaying the same in intensity may get a pass, but the African American male displaying the same behavior could be viewed as a threat. So I think with toxic masculinity, it's just broken down into what can, like you said, be poison to those based upon how they choose to display their masculinity.
Well, here's the thing: this aggression, and you brought it into play here. Minority, white, black, white, whatever the case may be. Matters not the color. If I'm upset and I get aggressive, am I in control? Am I acting like a man? Because stoicism says, basically, you accept what you cannot change, recognizing the difference between what is within your control and what is not. And you just don't deal with what's not under your control. So, going back to the aggressive black man, okay,
so that's
is he acting manly? Is he displaying good masculinity, true masculinity, or is he acting like a female? Okay, let's talk about it. Let's get down to the bottom line. You say something, I get ticked off. I go off on you. Am I acting like a man or a female?
Yeah, like a woman.
Right.
Why is that so? Why do you say that?
Because like women, they have sharp tongues, right? So they get mad and get upset. A lot of times they say whatever comes to their mind right then and there, whatever they're feeling, they say it.
Stop right there. Whatever they're feeling. Okay?
They don't control their
and
emotions.
Who defines, I'm still talking to you, Brother Walker, who defines whether or not you're a man or not? Society? Your mama, your sister, your wife, your brother? Who decides? Society, the community? Who decides, who defines whether you're a man or not?
I feel like it's in your DNA. I feel like there are a lot of societal influences on how a young boy, and once he's a man, what that maturation process is. If you don't have a strong male figure in your life, or if you don't have a Christ-like atmosphere, and you don't know how to turn the other cheek or swallow your tongue, especially being an African American, you can find yourself in serious trouble in your life if you don't know how to manage your anger. Because, like you say, already being viewed as a threat, and if you come across and you're acting out, I don't necessarily feel that's being like a female, but I just feel like that's being immature, and you don't know how to handle your emotions properly.
I'm gonna go back to is acting like a female, because females operate off of emotion.
100%.
Men operate off of logic and strategy. In other words, back in the day when the family needs to eat, the man had to get up and go hunt. We are hunters. And you can't go out there and Well, I feel like it's too cold, so I'm not going out today. Because the family won't eat if you don't go out.
I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll do it tomorrow. Okay. And the other thing too is when you start looking at how the society and how people try and move you, whether or not you had a father in the household or not, there is an age where you start feeling some kind of way. I'm going to say feeling, and that's when the logic should kick in because there's information about being a man and manhood and how to conduct yourself and so forth. And then you have to seek out someone who you respect, care about, and who you feel believe that will give you good, wholesome instruction. So you can still become a man even though you were raised in a house of women.
Yes, sir.
But what I feel like, you look at even Christ.
Wait, time out. I'm gonna be rude here a little bit.
He said the word.
You started off talking about I feel.
Right.
Men don't deal with feelings because feelings are circumstantial.
I feel everyone have emotions.
Okay, no. I know everyone has emotions, but I don't feel that way because see, here's the thing: when we start talking about feelings, we're talking about circumstantial, uh, circumstantial at that time. We're talking situational. But when you know something, you know it. Okay, and you can
That's
think
what
something.
we're talking about opinion. That's what we've been talking about the whole time. Everybody's opinion. So when I say I feel, that means I'm telling my opinion on the discussion. So in my belief, even Christ had his moment where he got angered and tore up the temple. But you look at other situation, he didn't give the Pharisees the response that they were trying to get out of him.
I buy that.
So what I'm saying is, if you just act a fool and be ignorant because you think that makes you a man, that doesn't make you a man,
right?
Nor does it make you a woman. It just makes you an uncivilized individual who are setting yourself up for failure in your life.
Okay.
So that's why it's about being Christ-like and carrying yourself as he would.
Okay. I buy that.
So we have to deny the flesh and follow the spirit.
Absolutely. So I tell men all the time, if you get into a discussion with your wife or with a woman, and if she say I feel, you just lost. You just lost the argument. Because how do you fight that? How do you fight feelings? Feelings are so fickle. Okay? The world is fickle. One day you on top, they're singing your praises. The next day they're tearing you down. So the thing is, we got to have something solid to stand on.
And that comes in different phases of life. That's what Brother Walker was talking about. This is what we can say statistically, people have different upbringings.
Right.
And people are exposed to different scenarios. And for males, men, guys, right? In our life process, some guys, some brothers, some young men are growing up in the streets in a single household, and then they get pointed to a big brother community or the military or uncle or something like that. Some brothers grow up in the streets and they don't have a family member who has the wherewithal to point them in that direction, or people around them, near them, that are responsible enough for them to trust their child with them. So certain kids grow up in certain scenarios at longer periods of time. And statistically, it prevents their developmental process and their maturity. And so if you're around a bunch of different experiences where people are lashing out and doing things improperly, how human nature, mankind, we are copy and repeat beings until we get to a capacity of understanding and knowledge to make our own decision. They're just going to repeat what they see. And so certain people get that understanding, like you said, Grant, throughout that manhood process of that feeling to hold up, this ain't right. Let me seek better earlier than others. And some people just innately have it before others. And then back when we was talking about individuals having wisdom just because they're old, some people don't get it in their life at all.
Right. Absolutely.
And
That's
that's why
what.
I said when we find wisdom, we appreciate it and we tap back into it because it's not easily accessible like that. And that's what allows you to mold yourself and chisel yourself throughout your process. And if you want to be a better man, you're going to take these tools and these skill sets and these attributes and these learned characteristics and implementing yourself accordingly. And then study and show thyself approved unto God.
Well, Proverbs 24, chapter 24, verse 5 and 6 says, a wise man is strong. Yea, a man of knowledge increases strength. For by wise counsel thou shalt make thy war. And in multitude of counselors there is safety. So, with that in mind, no matter where the young man comes from, he can be educated if he's interested in learning. And part of this Wisdom Wednesday sessions and so forth is to get us to be prepared and willing to aid and assist younger brothers that need some type of wise counsel. Because here's the thing, would you be happier? Do you believe man is happier standing steadfast on his belief or being a beta male? Which means a beta male goes whichever way the wind blows.
Yes, sir.
Which is better for us?
Standing
Stand
steadfast on your belief.
steadfast. So he'll be God.
Listen,
Keep me steadfast.
look,
Yeah, those beliefs should be Christ-like beliefs. If you stand in
Absolutely.
if you stand in the beliefs of the word, those words are going to guide and dictate your behavior through life. But if you're just trying to be cool because you're being the strong alpha man, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Well, there's a difference between following the word and being a strong man.
look.
Now, hold on a minute, Noah. Is there difference?
I was just going to say, like the scriptures say, stray on the straight and narrow, because wide is the path that leads to destruction.
Well, that means I'm not going to take into consideration your feelings. You're going to have to give me something solid to stand on. If I'm going to operate according to principles and truth, then you got to give me something solid to stand on versus just your feelings.
I guess, it's different adjectives and definition for words, because I feel like if we have an open discussion, those are a person's feelings. It's like their viewpoint on whichever topic that you're speaking on.
Well,
so just because you say feeling, it's your viewpoint.
Well,
so that's what we've been doing.
You're absolutely right. I agree with what you just said. Your viewpoint and your feelings are not necessarily rooted on a solid foundation. But when you start talking truths and principles, and my question to you basically, I'm not saying you're wrong or whatever. I'm just playing a good devil's advocate here. when you say go by the word, does the word take into consideration my feeling or my viewpoint?
I think that's what
that's a yes or no question.
I feel it does, because it allows you to have a relationship with God and the Son and the Spirit for when you're lost.
No. My question is I have a feeling or an opinion on a particular thing. The word says something different. Does it take into consideration my feelings and my opinion? Does God take into consideration my feelings and my opinion on how to handle money, how to transact business with you? My feelings.
Yeah, it speaks of tithing. Like it's all in there. That's what
No,
they say. Basic,
that's not it. That's not it.
basic instruction before leaving Earth. It's in there.
And does the Bible take into consideration my feelings and my opinion?
I
Yes
feel
or no?
with being children of God, I feel
Yes
He
or
does.
no?
I say yes.
Okay. I don't know where. Because the basic instructions before leaving Earth says this is how you do it. I don't care what you think and what you feel and your viewpoint. This is the basic instruction. Okay? God says go to Lake Michigan and jump in 4 times. Okay? Well, I feel like I need to wait till the summer because it's too cold today.
Right.
Does he care?
Think He does because we're His children. He cares about His whole creation. I mean, the Bible is just a book, but outside of that, we all have a relationship with the Holy Trinity, with the hierarchy.
Without the Bible, you don't have a relationship. The Bible is his word. That's his word. That's where the promises and the principles and the precepts are. If you
I know,
don't have the Bible, where are you gonna get it from?
but Adam and Eve wasn't in the garden with the Bible reading it. They still had a relationship with God.
God came down during the fourth watch and talked to Adam.
Right.
He
So
didn't
it's a
talk to
relationship.
Eve, he talked to Adam. Interesting. We can take it up later. Brother Thomas, any closing remarks or ideas or points of view? Do you have any points of view?
Yeah, everything that was shared, it was a great conversation. Um, but to follow suit on what you was talking about, Hebrews 13:8 says Jesus Christ is the same yesterday and today and forever. And so, you know, if we're basing things off of something, we basing it off of it. If we not, we not. And I think sometimes in conversation, we lose sight of that. And it just happens. But you know, other than that, everything else was good information, good wisdom. And if we stick to what's getting shared, it'll absolutely help better life when applied. So
Okay.
as always, appreciate being on the call today, Grant, Brother Walker, uh, Brother Tariq Moore, Big Moore, and Tony J. Man, it's a pleasure to lock in with you, brother, this evening.
Brother
Always,
Moore,
always.
Tariq, you got anything you want to share with us before we go?
Um,
Um, I just want to say it was a privilege to converse with you, gentlemen, and to take in the knowledge and wisdom that you guys was talking about. And I'm happy to be here. That's it. I really love everything about this video call. I really feel that other young men such as myself should have a group of gentlemen such as yourself where we can talk about everything and share certain viewpoints, even though we might have different viewpoints.
Well, feel free to invite any and all of your buddies. Okay. We want this to grow because we want to help as many as possible. Um, Brother Tony J, you've been texting. Can you talk?
is he still here?
He's still here.
Oh, okay.
He's just been texting. Uh, he says, Tony, okay. He says feelings have nothing to do with it. something, I didn't read it all. He said Paul had a thorn in his flesh, but God would not remove the thorn. So we know that made him feel uncomfortable. Stay positive, stay focused. Uh, Hopefully he'll have his machine fixed by next week. Um, Brother John Moore, what's on your mind?
Mentors, man.
Overtime. Huh?
Mentors helped me, and you know what I'm saying. They were not necessarily Christmen; they were Muslim men when I was in the streets as a young knucklehead, and they introduced me to brotherhood, and that's why I first learned the phrase "iron sharpens iron" before I was introduced technically to the Bible and things like that. So, good men are good men, whether they're in the church or not. You know what I'm saying? So mentors and men like this, meetings like this, young men, all of us, not just young men, all of us need to build from and learn from each other and keep these groups like this, these talks going forward and learning how to be men and better
Okay.
men.
Okay. Brother Walker, you get the last word, almost the last word.
Well, at the end of the day, we all have different definitions for terms. So I feel like when I was talking about feelings, I wasn't talking about getting bit by a spider. When I would say feelings, like I was just referring to my viewpoints and my take on certain things. But at the end of the day, we may, have difference in opinions about what is truly a man and what isn't. But what they say, it's not what you stand for, it's what you fall for.
Run that by me again.
It's not what you stand for, it's what you fall for.
Which means what?
It means that you have to make the best decisions to live your life in a way that's going to be beneficial and productive and fruitful for you.
And how do you do that?
That's the magic question.
Why not? And this will be my closing statement. Why not make a decision to live by the Bible and its in, encompassed principles and precepts, and that way you will always be standing on truth, regardless of what somebody else feel, think, or say. Because ultimately, you have to have a solid source of strength.
Right.
Okay.
That's the point. That's the point from earlier.
Yeah, you have to have a solid source of strength. John Moore liked me today. I don't know whether he's gonna like me tomorrow. Okay, I can't stand on John Moore's feelings or his impression of me. I have to know without a doubt that I am standing, as Thomas liked to say, 10 toes down. Okay. So anyway, do this for me. Take a look at this week, whatever happens to you, and try and make note of any opportunities or any occurrences where your masculinity is being questioned, challenged, or whatever the case may be, and come back and tell us how you handled it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now I'm relying on y'all to do that because I have a different topic for next week. So it's going to be the topic next week is your manhood intact? TACT. And that's going to be a good topic, especially when you come back and say whether or not your masculinity was questioned or challenged or whatever. Make sense?
Makes sense.
Okay, and if you will, be so kind as to, if you go to Monte Bar Grand Lodge YouTube channel, I've started putting these on the YouTube channel. Tell your friends about the YouTube channel. Tell your friends about the Wisdom Wednesdays. Let's grow this and see if we can help one another. Tariq, good seeing you, man, meeting you.
Same, sir.
I thought John was impotent, childless. You know, I didn't never know you had any children. Y'all have
That's
a good, y'all have a good week.
all right.
You
Love you,
too, bro.
man. Love y'all brothers, man. Y'all have a
Thank
good
you.
one.
Love you.
You'll have a good one, though.